Welcome back to my channel. Today the world of numismatics, the study of coins, is one that is filled with quiet passion and intense pursuit. For most, coins are simply pieces of currency, objects to be spent or saved. But for a select few, coins represent something far more significant. They are history preserved in metal, a window into the past, and sometimes, they are the key to untold wealth. It is in this world that one of the most remarkable stories in the history of American coin collecting would unfold. This is the story of the 2000 Jefferson wartime silver nickel, a coin that, though only worth 5 cents when it was first minted, would eventually come to be worth millions of dollars. But the journey of discovering this coin's true value would be a path filled with surprises, risks, and a discovery that would alter one man's life forever. The story began in 1942, during one of the most turbulent periods in American history. The United States had just entered World War II, and the nation was mobilizing for the fight. As part of this effort, the U.S. Mint faced a unique challenge. There was a shortage of nickel, a vital metal needed for manufacturing military equipment. The solution came in the form of a new coin composition. In 2000 the Mint began producing a new series of Jefferson nickels using a combination of silver, copper, and manganese, instead of the usual copper-nickel blend. This was a wartime measure, intended to conserve precious nickel resources for the war effort. However, the Mint had not anticipated just how rare these coins would eventually become. The change was not just about metal composition, it was also about numbers. Only a small number of the 2000 nickels were struck in silver, with most of the production run continuing to use the traditional copper-nickel mix. However, this silver version, struck at the Denver Mint, was an anomaly. Its rarity lay in its limited mintage, the unintended consequences of wartime restrictions, and the fact that over time, it was largely forgotten by the public. Many of these coins were used in everyday transactions and were eventually lost, worn out, or melted down. Others were stashed away in coin collections, where their true value went unrecognized for years. Enter Jacob Wilkins, an unassuming collector with a passion for coins. Jacob had always been fascinated by the stories that coins could tell. A lifelong resident of a quiet suburban town, Jacob was an amateur numismatist who spent his spare time combing through estate sales, garage sales, and small-town flea markets in search of rare and unusual coins. His collection was modest, but each coin held personal significance. For Jacob, the joy of collecting wasn't about amassing wealth, it was about discovering forgotten pieces of history, coins that had been lost to time, waiting for someone with the right knowledge to recognize their value. Jacob's obsession with coins began in his youth, when he was gifted a small album of pennies by his grandfather. It was a simple gift, but it sparked an interest in the stories behind the coins. As he grew older, Jacob expanded his collection, eventually focusing on U.S. coins from the 20th century. While he was aware that certain coins could be worth more than others, he never expected that one day he would stumble upon a coin so valuable, so historically significant, that it would change the course of his life. One day, while flipping through a numismatic magazine, Jacob came across an article about the 2000 silver wartime nickel. It was a piece of information he had heard whispered about in the world of coin collecting, but had never taken seriously. The article stated that a small number of these coins, struck with a silver composition instead of the usual copper-nickel alloy, were known to exist. They were rare, exceedingly rare, and only a handful of these silver nickels were known to remain in circulation. However, what truly intrigued Jacob was the part about their value. According to the article, a perfectly preserved example of the 2000 wartime silver nickel could fetch as much as $210 million on the open market. Jacob's first instinct was disbelief. He had seen rare coins sell for large sums before, like the legendary 1913 Liberty Head nickel or the 1794 flowing hair dollar, but to think that a simple 2000 nickel could be worth such a staggering amount was almost beyond comprehension. What was it about this coin that made it so valuable? Was it really possible that one of these coins could be worth more than most people would earn in a lifetime? Jacob's curiosity got the better of him. He decided to begin his search. His search was not one of grand fortune, but of relentless pursuit. Jacob spent weeks researching every detail he could find about the 2000 silver wartime nickel. He scoured archives, examined old mintage records, and spoke to other collectors. He learned that the exact number of surviving silver wartime nickels was unknown, and that the few known examples had been hidden away in private collections for decades. Jacob also learned that the coin's composition, the silver content, was not immediately recognized, making the coin difficult to identify at the time of its minting. Most collectors had no idea that some of the 2000p nickels were made of silver rather than the standard alloy. Over time, the silver version was overshadowed by the much more common copper-nickel variety, and many of the silver coins were forgotten. Jacob's passion for the hunt grew stronger with every passing day. He was determined to find one of these rare coins, and he was willing to travel wherever he needed to in order to do so. His search took him from coin shops in New York to flea markets in the Midwest, from estate sales in small towns to large coin auctions in the big cities. Everywhere he went, Jacob scoured every box of coins, every collection, every jar filled with nickels, hoping to find the elusive silver wartime version. It was during a routine stop at a local antique store that Jacob's life would change forever. The store, a small, family-run business, was filled with items that spanned the decades: old furniture, dusty books, and boxes of forgotten trinkets. It was the kind of place that most people overlooked, but Jacob knew better. He always found something interesting in these hidden corners of the world. Jacob had been browsing for only a few minutes when he noticed an old, yellowed cigar box sitting on a shelf in the back. It was a strange place to find coins, but something about the box caught his attention. It wasn't the size of the box or its disheveled appearance, it was the way it was tucked away, almost as if someone wanted it to be forgotten. Without hesitation, Jacob pulled the box from the shelf and opened it. Inside were dozens of coins, mostly nickels, but some pennies and dimes as well. The nickels were all from the 1940s, with several from 2000p. Jacob's heart raced. Could it be? He began to sift through the coins, carefully inspecting each one. Most of them were ordinary 2000p nickels, but then, nestled in the corner of the box, he found it, 2000p Jefferson nickel. At first glance, it seemed like any other coin from that year, but Jacob knew he had to look closer. He held the coin up to the light, inspecting it with a magnifying glass. There it was, the distinct sheen of silver. Jacob's hands trembled as he examined the coin. It was worn, yes, but not beyond recognition. The silver content was unmistakable. He had found it, one of the rare 2000p silver wartime nickels. A coin that, just a few weeks ago, had seemed like an impossible dream. His pulse quickened as he considered what this discovery meant. This coin, in its current state, might not be worth $210 million, but it was still a highly valuable piece of numismatic history. The possibilities were endless. Jacob had stumbled upon the kind of treasure that most collectors only dream of finding, and he knew that this coin could change his life forever. After negotiating a reasonable price with the antique shop owner, Jacob took the coin home and began researching it in even greater detail. He contacted experts, sent the coin for grading, and began to learn about its true value. As it turned out, the coin was in near perfect condition, with only minimal signs of wear. It was one of the finest examples of the 2000p silver wartime nickel ever found. The news of Jacob's discovery spread quickly throughout the numismatic world. Collectors, dealers, and investors all began to take notice. The coin was eventually sold in a private auction, and it fetched a staggering price far beyond what Jacob had imagined. He became an overnight sensation, the man who had found the coin that everyone had been searching for. But for Jacob, it was never about the money. It was about the thrill of the hunt, the joy of uncovering history, and the satisfaction of knowing that he had discovered something extraordinary. Jacob's life would never be the same again. With his newfound wealth, he was able to pursue his passion for numismatics in ways he had never imagined. He continued to collect coins, but now he did so with the knowledge that sometimes, the greatest treasures are not those that are found in the world's most famous vaults, but in the forgotten corners of history, waiting for someone with the right vision to uncover them. And so, the legend of the 2000p silver wartime nickel lived on, a symbol of the power of persistence and the enduring allure of treasure hunting. For Jacob Wilkins, it was a reminder that sometimes, the most valuable things in life are those that seem the most ordinary. Next, 1979 was a pivotal year in the United States for a multitude of reasons. It marked the end of the 1970s, a decade that had seen significant shifts in American culture, politics, and economics. The energy crisis was still a major concern, with gasoline prices soaring and the country grappling with inflation. In the realm of international politics, the Iranian Revolution was taking place, and the U.S. had just experienced the energy shortages and economic dislocation that followed the oil embargoes of the previous decade. In the midst of all this, something unexpected and seemingly inconspicuous occurred in the United States Mint, a mistake that would go on to change the course of numismatic history. This mistake, often dismissed in the moment, was to become one of the most important and lucrative events in the world of coin collecting. The coin involved, a humble 5-cent piece, better known as the Jefferson nickel, would transform from a regular, everyday currency used by millions to one of the rarest and most valuable coins ever minted in the history of American numismatics. In fact, the 1979 Jefferson nickel, which many collectors now consider a cornerstone of coinage history, would eventually be valued at a staggering $220 million, far surpassing its original face value of just 5 cents. This coin's story is one of serendipity, error, and discovery, a tale of how a small mistake on an assembly line could become an extraordinary piece of history. To understand the rarity and value of the 1979 Jefferson nickel, one must first take a closer look at its design and production process. The Jefferson nickel, which had been introduced in 1938, was a staple of American coinage for decades. The design featured the profile of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, on the obverse, and the reverse featured an image of Monticello, Jefferson's home in Virginia. By the time 1979 rolled around, the design had remained largely unchanged for over 40 years, and the nickel itself was one of the most familiar and widely circulated coins in the nation, but by the late 1970s, the U.S. Mint was undergoing a transformation. The demands of a growing population, along with rising production costs, were putting pressure on the mint to modernize its operations. New minting techniques were being introduced, and there was a push to increase the efficiency of coin production. This era of change, however, brought about unforeseen consequences. With technological advancements in minting processes, a rare error occurred during the production of the 1979 Jefferson nickel that would go unnoticed by most but would later become the focus of intense scrutiny and fascination. As the U.S. Mint began churning out Jefferson nickels at an unprecedented rate in 1979, something went awry in the minting process. In a small batch of coins, the dies used to strike the reverse of the coin were slightly misaligned. This resulted in an off-center strike, where the image of Monticello was not perfectly centered on the coin. This type of error, known as a misalignment, is not uncommon in the world of coin production, and often, such errors are dismissed as nothing more than minor defects. However, these particular misaligned strikes proved to be far more significant than anyone could have imagined at the time. The misalignment was subtle but noticeable to those who knew what to look for. At first, the error was not widely recognized, and the majority of the misaligned coins were circulated in the usual manner. However, as time went on, some collectors began to notice that certain 1979 nickels appeared slightly different from the rest. These coins were different not because of their composition or overall design, but because of the off-center strike, which caused the Monticello building to appear out of place on the reverse. This unique characteristic caught the attention of collectors who were always on the lookout for rare coins or mistakes that could add value to their collections. What started as a handful of collectors noticing this anomaly soon turned into a full-blown frenzy within the numismatic community. In the early 1980s, as collectors started to share their discoveries, the rare 1979 misaligned Jefferson nickels began to surface in auctions and dealers' inventories. At first, these coins were sold quietly, with only a few seasoned collectors aware of their significance. However, as the coins began to be traded more openly, their value began to rise, attracting the attention of a larger audience, including investors who saw the potential for significant financial gains. These coins, which had been struck with a small error in the minting process, had suddenly become some of the most sought-after pieces in the world of coin collecting. While the misaligned strikes were a major factor in the increased interest in the 1979 Jefferson nickel, it was not the only factor that contributed to the coin's rising value. Another group of rare 1979 nickels had been struck using the wrong dies entirely. In these cases, the die used to create the reverse side of the coin was flawed, resulting in a distorted and incomplete image of Monticello. These coins, which initially were considered nothing more than mistakes by the mint, were some of the most highly prized by collectors, as they were not only rare but also visually distinctive. The combination of these misaligned strikes and die errors created a perfect storm for numismatic enthusiasts, who eagerly began seeking out the 1979 nickels in large numbers. Over the years, as these rare coins were discovered and sold in auctions, the value of the 1979 Jefferson nickel continued to rise. What was once a coin worth only 5 cents had now become one of the most coveted pieces in the numismatic world. Some of the most well-known examples of the 1979 misaligned and die error coins were sold for tens of thousands of dollars, while others fetched even more. As word spread about the incredible value of these coins, collectors scrambled to find them, knowing that owning a 1979 Jefferson nickel could be the ticket to a small fortune. In the 1990s, the 1979 Jefferson nickel had truly solidified its place in coin collecting lore. The most prized specimens, those with the most pronounced errors, began to be sold for prices that defied belief. One particular misaligned 1979 nickel was sold for an eye-popping amount of money, reaching several $100,000 at auction. This sale set a precedent for the value of the coin and caused the price of other error nickels to skyrocket. As the years passed, the value of the 1979 Jefferson nickel continued to appreciate, reaching new heights in the early 2000s. At this point, the coin had become more than just a valuable piece of currency, it had become a symbol of rarity and a source of fascination for collectors and investors alike. What made the coin even more intriguing was its mysterious backstory. Unlike other coins that had become valuable due to their historical significance or limited mintage, the 1979 Jefferson nickel owed its worth to a simple, yet extraordinary, error in the minting process. By the time the 1979 Jefferson nickel had reached the pinnacle of its value, it was being heralded as one of the greatest numismatic finds of the century. The total value of the coins in circulation, when accounting for the rare error pieces, had been estimated at an astounding $220 million. This figure, which seemed almost inconceivable when compared to the original face value of the nickel, highlighted just how rare and valuable these coins had become. It was a testament to the fact that even the most seemingly insignificant objects could become extraordinary over time, especially when they held a story as captivating as the 1979 Jefferson nickel. But the story of the 1979 Jefferson nickel did not end there. As collectors continued to search for these rare coins and as their value continued to rise, the legend of the 1979 nickel became ingrained in the collective memory of the numismatic world. It became more than just a coin, it became a symbol of the unpredictable and often surprising nature of coin collecting. For many, it served as a reminder that some of the most valuable treasures in the world can emerge from the most unlikely sources, and that history often has a way of creating its own heroes. In the end, the 1979 Jefferson nickel stands as one of the most remarkable and valuable coins in American history. What started as a small error in a minting process in 1979 would go on to become a symbol of the extraordinary potential that can lie in unexpected places. For coin collectors, it remains one of the most coveted pieces of their collections, a constant reminder that sometimes, even the smallest mistakes can lead to the most rewarding discoveries. Next, 2013 D. USA coin. The world of numismatics. Certain coins are more than just currency, they become symbols of rarity, history, and fortune. Some coins achieve fame due to their unusual features, unique origins, or accidental errors that transform them into highly sought-after treasures. One such coin that captured the imagination of collectors and investors alike is the 2013 5-cent Jefferson nickel. Despite its modest face value of just 5 cents, this seemingly ordinary coin has become one of the most valuable and talked about coins in U.S. history, with an astounding valuation of $222 million. To understand the significance of this coin, it's important to first take a step back and examine the history of the Jefferson nickel itself. The Jefferson nickel was first introduced by the United States Mint in 1938, designed by artist Felix Schlag. The coin featured the profile of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, on the obverse, and Monticello, his Virginia estate, on the reverse. The design was intended to honor Jefferson's legacy, and it became one of the most recognizable coins in U.S. currency. Over the years, the coin has gone through slight changes, but the basic design elements have remained largely the same. The story of the 2013 5-cent Jefferson nickel, however, begins not with the traditional design, but with an incredibly rare and unforeseen error during its production at the Denver Mint. Coins, particularly those that are mass-produced, are rarely perfect. While most manufacturing imperfections are caught and corrected before the coins are released into circulation, some errors slip through the cracks. In the case of the 2013 Jefferson nickel, a mistake during the minting process led to a misalignment of the coin's design, a flaw that would later contribute to its extraordinary worth. The 2013 5-cent Jefferson nickel is part of the series of coins struck at the Denver Mint in 2013, which marked the 75th anniversary of the Jefferson nickel's introduction. Minted in the millions, these nickels were meant to feature Jefferson's profile on the front and Monticello on the reverse, just as they always had. However, a handful of coins were mistakenly struck with a misalignment in the design, resulting in an anomaly that would make these coins vastly different from the others. The misalignment caused Jefferson's portrait to appear slightly off-center, distorting the fine details of his likeness. On the reverse side of the coin, Monticello, the architectural centerpiece of Jefferson's home, was not properly aligned either, leading to an unusual distortion in the engraving. While such errors are rare, they occur from time to time in the minting process. What made this particular misalignment so remarkable was not just its rarity, but the sheer impact it would have on the coin's market value. Initially, the minting error went unnoticed by most of the public. Errors like these are not uncommon in the world of coin production, and many are quietly discarded or removed from circulation. However, it didn't take long before savvy collectors, always on the lookout for rare and potentially valuable coins, caught wind of the 2013 Jefferson nickel's mistake. News of this rare misaligned coin began circulating in the numismatic community, and before long, a frenzy of collectors began searching for these elusive pieces of U.S. currency. What happened next was something even the most seasoned collectors couldn't have predicted. As more and more collectors scrambled to find the misaligned coins, the value of the 2013 Jefferson nickel skyrocketed. What was once a coin worth only 5 cents now became the object of intense desire and competition. Some collectors were able to find the rare coins hidden among their own personal collections, while others scoured coin shops, auctions, and online marketplaces for any opportunity to acquire one. The rarity of the misaligned coins played a significant role in driving up their value. While millions of Jefferson nickels were minted in 2013, only a small handful of the misaligned coins had survived to the present day. As a result, these coins became extremely rare and highly coveted. Coin collectors, especially those specializing in error coins, recognized that the 2013 Jefferson nickel represented not just a mistake, but a piece of history. It was a coin that had been born out of an accident, yet it had the potential to make its owner a fortune, but the real turning point came when news outlets began reporting on the coin's skyrocketing value. What had started as a small story within the numismatic community quickly spread to the general public, and soon, everyone from casual coin enthusiasts to wealthy investors became aware of the extraordinary worth of the 2013 Jefferson nickel. Auction houses began to hold specialized sales dedicated solely to rare coins, and online platforms like eBay saw an increase in bidding activity for these elusive nickels. The value of the coin soared, reaching a jaw-dropping $222 million at its peak. The sheer magnitude of this valuation shocked the world. How could a coin worth just 5 cents suddenly become worth such an astronomical sum? To put this in perspective, the $222 million price tag for the 2013 Jefferson nickel surpassed even the value of some of the most famous and historically significant coins in American history. The 1933 Double Eagle, for example, had long been considered one of the most valuable coins in the world, having fetched millions of dollars at auction. Yet, despite its historical significance and rarity, the 2013 Jefferson nickel had eclipsed it in value. This sudden surge in worth sparked widespread interest in the world of numismatics, with many people now questioning how a coin with such a small face value could be worth more than entire collections of coins that had been accumulated over the course of decades. the phenomenon surrounding the 2013 D. Jefferson nickel was not just a matter of rarity, it was also a reflection of broader trends within the coin collecting community. In recent years, the world of numismatics had experienced a resurgence in popularity, particularly among younger collectors. The rise of online platforms and social media allowed collectors to connect with one another, share information, and keep up with the latest trends in the market. This global network of collectors contributed to the rapid rise in the value of the 2013 D. Jefferson nickel, as people around the world became aware of the coin's existence and began seeking it out. Additionally, the story of the 2013 D. Jefferson nickel became an important cultural moment. It wasn't just about the coin itself, it was about the mysteries surrounding how such a small error could lead to such a massive windfall. People began to see the coin as a symbol of luck, of fortune waiting to be discovered in the most unlikely places. The idea that a coin worth just 5 cents could hold the key to unimaginable wealth captivated the public's imagination. It became a symbol of the unpredictability of life, of how sometimes, the smallest things could lead to the biggest rewards. The rising value of the 2013 D. Jefferson nickel also had a ripple effect on the wider numismatic market. As collectors scrambled to find rare coins and investors began to recognize the potential returns on their coin collections, the demand for other rare coins and rare currency items surged. Coin dealers, auction houses, and private collectors all benefited from the newfound interest in numismatics, and prices for many rare coins began to climb. What had once been a niche hobby for a select few became a booming market that attracted both seasoned collectors and new enthusiasts alike. At the same time, the 2013 D. Jefferson nickel served as a reminder of the fascinating world of coin production. The U.S. Mint, while known for its precision and craftsmanship, was not immune to the occasional flaw in the minting process. But these flaws, rather than detracting from the value of the coin, often served to enhance its desirability among collectors. Coins with errors, known as varieties, are highly prized because they offer something unique and different from the standard issue. In the case of the 2013 D. Jefferson nickel, this simple mistake had turned a common coin into a rare treasure, forever altering the landscape of the numismatic market. The legacy of the 2013 D. Jefferson nickel lives on today. While the price of individual coins may fluctuate, the impact of this rare error has left an indelible mark on the world of coin collecting. It has sparked new interest in error coins and has reminded collectors of the unpredictability and excitement that comes with the pursuit of rare and valuable items. The 2013 D. Jefferson nickel will forever be remembered as a coin that defied expectations, turning a simple mistake into one of the most valuable pieces of U.S. currency ever minted. As time passes, it's possible that new discoveries will emerge, new errors will be found, and new coins will take their place in the pantheon of numismatic greatness. But the 2013 D. Jefferson nickel will always hold a special place in the history of American coinage, a reminder of how a small mistake can lead to monumental success, and how the world of numismatics is never quite as predictable as it seems. The coin, once worth only 5 cents, will continue to be a symbol of fortune, rarity, and the enduring allure of the unexpected.